Yo, what's up, dudes? New video! Okay, multiplexing. This is a whole discussion, right? There's a lot of options. A lot of terminals have multiplexing kind of built in. However, I would say it's like kind of lacking a lot of the times. I used Ghosty for a long while, probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months. And like basically from when it came out up until like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or something, I used Ghosty. And that has the multiplexing thing and it's all right, but it doesn't have the session management situation. Like there's other things that exist in the world, Zellage or Zellige. I think it's Zellige because it's supposed to be like IntelliJ, like the IDE, right? I think that's why it's called Zellige. Or anyway, you have that. You have the multiplexing built into the terminals, and then you have the industry standard, which is tmux, was we're gonna be talking about today. And I was actually smart enough to write myself some notes, and I reconfigured my setup, and I'm using a second set of screens, so like I have notes, and it doesn't look weird. So yeah, um, I've used tmux kind of like here and there over the course of like I don't know, maybe a year. I never configured it up until recently, like maybe 2 weeks ago. I started like really diving into all the plugins, and there's a lot of fun things to tinker with here. It's very cool, very cool. So essentially, like, what is the idea of like multiplexing? If you're like, wow, Jay, you're like saying some real moon rune stuff. Like, I have no clue what you're talking about. Multiplexing is just kind of like taking your terminal window and then being able to split it into different panes, kind of like a tiling window manager, right? And then you can also have like tabs or windows, right? So you can have a whole new set. So you can have one that's like split half and half where you have documentation, and then you have your text editor, and then you can open up a whole new window to bring up a terminal. I can also bring up a terminal just with a pop-up terminal over top everything too. That's pretty cool. And yeah, it's just kind of it's good for multitasking and for organizing terminal sessions. Like for instance, me, like I'm not like writing code or anything or doing anything cool, but I do SSH into multiple machines, and I do like to have certain things accessible. Like things like btop or Yazi, or maybe I've been using this U2E TUI app that basically it accesses YouTube Music, and I'll play music through there. There's a bunch of different reasons for me as a person, a non-coding person, or a script kiddie or whatever, because that's all I really do is scripting. uh, there's still use for it for me too. Because it's like you have a million terminal windows open like I used to. You kind of get lost in the sauce, especially when okay, so like I'm gonna talk about like my environment for a second. I'm here on LabWC, and it has this window switcher, right? And it's just kind of nicer to just have everything in the kitty window rather than having it all spread out. Because when you go like this, you see how it has that home squiggle? If there's nothing that's being run, it will show that. So like, let's say if I go like this, right? It'll say Yazi, right? But if I'm like, for instance, let's say I just want like the readout of something to keep it fresh, like up on the screen. Let's do Pac-Man minus Q, right? So like, let's say I have this, and I want to like be able to look at this. When I change it, you see it still says that. So it's like not necessarily the best for organization and like switching around. So like having that in a multiplexed window is kind of useful, you know what I mean? Because then I can just hop over to that terminal and then everything's in there. All right, I know I said that twice, but let's go into this. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is the session manager that I'm using. I'm using Sesh. If you look, there's actually an AUR package. So Pac-Man minus Q grep. So it's sesh bin in the AUR, so you can get that easy. Or you come over here and there's instructions on how to install it. It's this guy. I've seen this guy. I feel like this guy makes videos. His face looks very familiar. Um, Yeah, and this is available obviously on Homebrew and Nix and through the Go package manager or whatever that the Go thing is. Go install, who knows? Uh yeah, and so essentially what this does is it creates like a session management feature. So like I can have a lot of different things. So if I go into my bash RC, right? In the bottom and these alias right here. Uh Actually let me do a little zoom in. So I have sesh connect $ within parentheses sesh list pipe FCF as T, right, inside here. So if I go T, now all of a sudden it's going to give me a list of, like, for instance, home, that's a session that I already have open. And then you can also just pick different you know places that you CD'd to, because I have Zoxide installed, right? So this will use Zoxide to be like, oh, I want to go here, or I want to go like here, or I want to go here, right? You know what's cool about this? Actually, side note for theming purposes, if you go here, this is the actual theme, the system file for the theme of what I'm using for LabWC, and yeah, you can edit this directly, and I didn't realize you could do that. So yeah, that's pretty sweet. Um, oh, I'm caps locked out, dude. So yeah, yeah. So that's Sesh. What was it? Oh, and the other thing I wanted to talk is, so when I start up my environment with LabWC, as you see as the bottom right here, I have tmux new -s for session home. This basically just starts it up in the background. So when I open this, I can just go T, and then I have my home sesh opened up. And this is what my config looks like. It's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet. Um, let's talk about a couple of things. Let's talk about plugins, right? There's a lot of lists out there of plugins. There's a lot of articles that people have written. I literally have spent 2 weeks like just like binging all this content basically to figure out all the different things you could do with the tmux, right? And so yeah, so I'm gonna show you a couple of resources you're gonna want to get into. So there's this we're gonna start here. So in tmux there's a color palette. If you click right here, you write tmux colors, and you find this link. And right here, this is a guide. You can even save this. Like, I have this saved to my computer. And now I know that every single color, or like I can get as close to like whatever colors I have inside my rice by looking at this. Very, very useful. You want to definitely figure that one out. They have this tmux plugin list. This is kind of, I believe this is the one that's linked on the tmux GitHub page, I'm pretty sure. And this is just like, it has mostly everything. And then this is the tmux cheat sheet, which is another place where it's going to have all the plugins. Now, I've gone through both of these lists. They both have the majority of the plugins that you would ever want are going to be in here. But as a suggestion, you can also find other plugins that haven't made it onto those lists yet, or maybe, they're too new. Right, if you search tmux plugins on GitHub, you'll find stuff in here. There's a bunch of stuff. You can find people's configs in here. Maybe you don't want to set up your own config, like, different things. And then there's other people that do like, lists or whatever. This is the list I was looking at. But yeah, that's like kind of like where the theming kind of stuff and the color palette is. Or not, yeah, all the theming and color. Oh my god, I'm so stupid. All the theming and status line stuff is going to be in those lists. Sorry. Another useful tool you're going to want to have is actually, let's see, nerd fonts, right? If you go here to the cheat sheet, this is where you can get like all your like icons, right? So then you can copy and paste these into your config, and you just swap them out and do like whichever ones you want. You want to click the icon one. Don't click these other ones. You click this one, it'll go to your clipboard, and then you could paste it. All right. So yeah, that's how I got all the icon stuff. So like all this stuff up here, like this little chip, this is from my uptime. And this, oh yeah, another thing too is a lot of these kind of plugins that are up here, you can kind of just use bash scripting sort of stuff. Like, so with my uptime, let's see, uptime.sh, that's all this is. It's me awking uptime command and said, I copied this too. This was like the one of the first things I found related to tmux. Very useful, very useful. Because I like knowing like how long, like my machine's been up for 2 hours and 54 minutes, right? Um, and that's mainly for when I'm playing Rust. Because like that thing, if you look at this, I'm on a RX 580. Yo, that boy can barely handle it. And I have a better graphics card than this. I'm just like, I don't know. I think it's funny. Anyway, uh yeah. So uptime, that's how you get all this. Let's see. I talked about that. I talked about that. Okay, so the plugins I've been using. We're gonna look at my config. It's a mess. I'm gonna refactor this because I think I want to have the plugin and then have the options for the plugin below it and separate it like that instead of the way that I have it this way, because this is like kind of messy. But yeah, this is just all the keybind stuff for sesh. Pretty cool. Um the reload. Oh yeah, plugins. We're talking about plugins. Okay, so yeah, this is the stuff for sesh you got to put in. This is on their GitHub page. You can just copy and paste it. If I go to the bottom, as you see, I have a plugins section and I have separated it out here. So auto reload just makes it so every time I save, it'll just, you see how it reloaded it? It'll source the config and then that's good to go, right? We got yank, which just makes it so I can copy stuff and paste it outside of tmux, which is cool. That's doesn't really need much of an explanation. All right, menus. So if I go, I switched my leader key to Control A. So if I go Control A and then M, I get this kind of menu, and you can do it has all sorts of stuff. You can create new sessions, you can switch to different windows and panes and different sessions and all that sort of stuff. Pretty cool. This is just more, um, I forget things, so this is just an easier way of me dealing with knowing where the keybinds, where the navigation stuff is. Yep. So then I have tmux fcf, so if I do leader key and then shift F, you get this. So now I can navigate between these different things. Session, window, pane, command, blah, blah, blah. Very cool. I don't have anything extra open, so yeah, there's that. Let's see, what else? The CPU, that's just what this bad boy is right here. And then all this sort of stuff that ends up in your status bar will be like, if I do this line right here, it's just going to be in a long string like this, which is pretty convenient because it's all kind of in the same place. You know, you can do stuff on the left. I just have it kind of set up like this because it just feels natural to me. Let's see, CPU online status, that's this over here. I don't necessarily need that on my main PC because I'm wired, but like on my ThinkPad, I have that set up. So if I'm someplace else and I drop a connection from the Wi-Fi, I know what's going on. You know, if I'm trying to download something and it's like messing up or whatever, like, yeah. Um, and then what? The tmux menus thing. Oh, I have that in here twice. I'm like so stupid. Okay, let's delete that. And then tmux prefix highlight. So if I hit the leader key, you see how it has this little thing that pops up right here? That's what that is. I have not, you can customize this to anything. I haven't set it because I haven't thought of like a good nerd font icon to like use for it. So I'll eventually change it. I just haven't gotten around to it. So yeah, that's the plugins, and then I'll kind of go into like some of the keybind stuff. So like as I said, this is all the keybind stuff for sesh. If I do this, this is my reload. So if I do leader key and then R, it'll reload, and then I get that very refreshing on the message. Very cool, very cool. This is me changing the leader key from Control B to Control A, because Control B is like, that's a little stretch. You know, it's like here to here, you know what I mean? Yeah. So menus trigger, if I do the control, that's that's how I get that. I have mouse functions on. So like let me see. Control A. If I do this pane, I can control like, I can use mouse to do things if I wanted to. Um let's see, the history thing is whatever. Okay, so this is an important one right here. The start 1 instead of 0 on the index. So normally when it opens up Windows, it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then when you go to switch to a window, you can do leader and then 2, or leader and then 1, right? But if it starts at 0, your first window is going to be on 0, and that's kind of really annoying and freaking stupid because you have to reach all the ways to the other edge of the thing. So I have it set to 1 instead of 0. So 1 will be your first one, so on and so forth. Then I have this one, which is renumber windows on. And basically what that does is if you have a whole bunch of windows up and let's say you want to not have one in the number list, or you're going to kill that particular window, it'll renumber them all so they're in the right order. Or let's say if you move one window down the list or up the list, it'll renumber it accordingly, right? So that's kind of important. All right, now for the splits or the panes, I will never remember the quotes and percent thing. So I changed it to pipe and hyphen or dash or whatever you call it. So if I do like this and then dash, I get that. And if I go like this and then like that, I get a vertical split. All right, this is pretty common. I do have this bind space to next window. So if I create a new window and I do leader key space, it'll just go between the last two windows that I was accessing. That's actually probably like really useful. I like that a lot. The resizing of the panes, you can use these. I don't use this. I just use the mouse. I will use this at some point. It just seems like a lot simpler for me to just click and drag it at this point. Um, if I can think of a way to make this more elegant and like better, I'll do it. Bells, this is just kind of like visual notifications, like um I don't know, like sometimes on an update it'll tell you, oh, you got to reboot. This will just put a little thing at the top, a little message thing. Or if you want it to notify you at the end of a process, like let's say you're running, I don't know, you're extracting something like an archive, and when it's done extracting it'll just pop up a little message or whatever. Pretty cool. That's all your visual stuff are there. And then the theming, this is all the theming stuff. Yeah, as you see, I have this like these color 235, like that's off of that palette picture. Mm. Yeah. And then so like my status bar, you got the prefix highlight already talking about RAM, talked about not RAM but CPU percentage, right? Uptime, and then your date and your time, and then the online status, just like right there. Yeah. And okay, so down here, like, so if you look at the top left of my window, I have like Chud, Home, Helix, right? So that's the machine that I'm on, the host. The next is going to be the name of the session, and then the one after that, that's where the windows start, right? So, and that's all configured right here. So, they use this like kind of, hashtag W or hashtag S. And these are all representative of like, session, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. And then, I have it in here where I have like icons set for things and like things in different formats. When you're doing these status line in the formats, don't feel like, don't feel bad about putting extra spaces in between things to like even everything out. Because it's basically the best way you're going to be able to fix that. So just do it. It's not going to hurt anything. Trying to think anything else. No, that's pretty much covered. Now, my overall thoughts of tmux, is it a necessary thing? I think if you're a person that lives in the terminal, somebody that likes terminal apps, and you're doing that, it's kind of a necessary thing, I would say. Uh, I don't know. It's very convenient in a lot of ways. For just like I was saying earlier on, like I don't want to have a mess of windows open. And that's the kind of like with my browser, right? Like I'm like the same way. If like let's say I have a bunch of windows on, I have the little thing so I can jump between that. So if I'm already doing that with this, why wouldn't I do that with my terminal? That's kind of how I'm feeling. But I also kind of like really hate um the way that tabs work in like GUI terminals. Like think like XFCE terminal and GNOME terminal and this and that. Like I don't like tabbing. Or Kitty has tabs too, but I don't use them, right? I don't like the tabs. So this enables me to use that kind of features without the ugly ass Kitty tabs, because you know how they look. They're like weird. Yeah, there you go. tmux. Rating is for software 9 out of 10. Very beautiful thing. I know people kind of say stuff about, oh, it's not as cool looking as Zellage. Actually, you know, it's funny. I have that installed. I haven't configured it yet. But yeah. Yo, you can open up tmux. You can open up Zellage inside tmux and then open up tmux inside Zellage, and it bypasses the tmux nesting feature. So I don't have the nesting feature turned on, but I can still nest inside Zellage. How funny is that? That's weird. Anyway, 9 out of 10. I will use it again. Anyways, if you guys like the video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all those things. I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you're enjoying the lovely weather we've been having this summer. At least where I live at, we've been having some good weather. It was a little hot a couple days, but you know, we'll do whatever. I got some more videos coming out, you know. Obviously, there's an elephant in the room I need to talk about, involving some Debian developers and, you know, like, I'm not trying to have too much culture commentary on this channel, but I kind of need to talk about that and like my personal opinions on that. So I'll be releasing a video about the Debian Didla. So yeah, look out for that one. Anyways, I'll check you guys later. You guys have a good night. Peace out.